Shout out to you guys. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Make Them Tech. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that when we drop a new video, you can always get notified. Today, we want to look at something very interesting titled How to Create Custom Middleware in Redux. How to create custom middleware in Redux. In our last video, we talked about how to build a React Redux application. There we explained how to implement external state management using Redux. And I want to believe by now, for those of us that have watched the video, you would have understood how Redux works and how to implement external state management using Redux. So we want to go a step further by looking at how to create custom middleware in Redux. For those of us that have been using Node, I think middleware should not be strange to us because middleware is just like a function that runs in between two things or that runs within a process. Before a cycle or a process gets completed, middleware would have done its work and then you have the result. So in Redux, we also have something like that. In Node, middleware has access to response object, request object, and same is applicable to Redux. Our middleware has access to our dispatch method and also our action, that is our objects. So in this tutorial, we're going to look at how to create our own custom middleware. We have a lot of middleware out there. We have that of Tonk, Redux Tonk, we have Logger, and so on. So, but in this tutorial, we're just going to be focused on creating our own custom middleware. Yes, in this tutorial video, that's in Redux. So without any further ado, I would like to directly into the code. This is our last, so just working on the existing code. So I'm just going to create a folder now called middleware. Index.js. So let's start this application. Title, content. So yes, I guess this was what we achieved in our last video. So, but today, now we want to attach a middleware to this implementation. So how do we go about? So, so I think we should just try to validate the number of characters that is being inserted into this title field. So we are going to have a maximum character that is allowed for this text field, and that is this title field. So we are going to limit ourselves to 15. So when the number of characters exceed 15, then we are going to prompt an error. So we're going to showcase an error. We are going to use a middleware in this case. Basically, you can use your normal form validation, but just for us to have the understanding of middleware, we're going to go the route of middleware, just doing a kind of a small middleware implementation. So how do we implement that? So what we're going to do is that our middleware is going to call our function that is from our action creator. So it's going to call an action creator and then use that to validate the input of the person, the user, that is for the title field. Let's do that. So I will first of all go to my types. So let's have something called maximum, that's max yes, something like this. Exceeded. So sometimes it's good you make your declarations, whether variable or the key, that's your object key or whatever, at least make it explicit. So be detailed a little about it. So at least, like someone said, a well-declared variable, detailed variable, at least it's more like at least self-documenting. So probably you might not need to be putting comments here and then in your code. So I think this explains itself. Let's go to our reducer now. Okay, so here now we're going to have a key, a property that is maximum character length exceeded. So I'm just trying to shorten it. So let's call it error. So we're going to set it to an empty string. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is so the type is, okay, yeah. So for this one, we just do max character x0. So we just put something like title cannot be more than 15 characters. So I think we are done. So the next thing we're going to do is to move to our action. That's where our action creators is. So we are going to create an action creator for this implementation. So we're going to title it at max, just like the name of our type. So this time around, we are not sending any data. So we are only going to send the type key alone. So that's the whole thing. So there's not going to be any additional data. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is to go to our middleware, and then we implement the middleware function. So the first thing we're going to do is to import our type, that is import types from this article here. So then import as max length, maximum character length exceeded. Actions article. So export constant. So this time around, I'm just going to say validate post article. So, okay, let me write this function. Let me just do it like this. So at this point, this function validate post article is going to be fed with an object. So, and in that object is going to be fed with the store object. So inside the store object, we have the get state, we have the dispatch. So with that, then we are good to go. So what we just need to do, we just have to introduce our dispatch here. Let's destructure it here. So we just say dispatch here. So, and that takes care of everything. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to return another function. So I want to believe that you guys are aware of Lambda in React in JavaScript. So functions are first class citizens in JavaScript. So with that, we can pass our functions around like data or like a value. So here now I'm going to put our next here. So meaning we can, when the application or when the request is true, then we fire our next. But if there is something wrong somewhere, the next function is not going to fire. So that's it. What we do next is we also return another function. So this time around, the function that we are returning to will carry the action objects. So that's what we are doing. So with this now, from when we use this function in our store, because we're still going to use it in our store, that is where the whole thing will be connected together. So before any action or before any object, that is any action in Redux is an object. Before it gets to the store, our validate post article will fire or would have fired. And that would have tracked the action that is coming, at least whatever that is in the payload coming would have been tracked here. So that is why we are using the action here. So anything that runs within our application, we always pass through this middleware here. So actually validate post article is a middleware. And everything that happens within the application runs through this guy. So what we need to do now is we now need to track that action. So if the action type is okay, so types, that's a post article, yeah, is of this type of type. Permit me to use that language, this kind of type. So we are going to do something here. So we are going to be checking the length of this payload, that is the title. So we know we have access to our payload here. So payload dot title dot length. So once it's greater than 15, then we are going to return we are going to dispatch the function that does that for us. That is the max character length exceeded. So, and in a situation whereby the action that is coming is not of this type, and then, or probably the payload, the title is less than 15, the length is less than 15, then we are going to bypass this, and then we return our next method, the next function. And we have, so meaning we are firing this action directly. So it's just like, the next is just like moving the action forward so that it will continue. So it's not going to be blocked at this point once the requirement is satisfied. So the whole thing about middleware is just what you guys are seeing. It's as easy as anything. So we only just want to understand the fact that we can access our dispatch method that is one of the workers of the store. Permit me to use that analogy. So also our action that is coming, we can also get the content, the type, where we can use that, and also the payload. We can also get the title, whatever that is inside. And then we do whatever we want to do. If the condition is true here, then we know we are firing this. When it is false, then this block, if statement block is not going to fire. Rather, the return next action is going to fire. Now let's go to our components, and then we are going to, so sorry. Okay, before that, I think the next thing we need to do is to go to our store. Let's go to our store first. So let's import the middleware here. That's validate post article. So we need to bring in apply middleware from Redux, and then we use it here. Then we bring in apply middleware. then we use our, that's validate post article. I think this is right. So let's save our code. Then now let's go to our application. So what are we going to do? So we need to bring in the state, that is, that's maximum character length exceeded error, and then we're going to do state max, so max character length exceeded error. So we're going to pass it into, okay, so let me bring it here. This is max, yeah, come on. So we're going to pass it here to that's okay, we have an article here, we have a form. Okay, yes, so the form is the one that is going to use it. So let's call it maximum error, like this. That's max error. Okay, so I think this is what we are here. Let's go to our form, and in our form we are going to okay, so in our form, let's bring it here. So let me just copy the prop here and then bring it here. So instead of just putting prop here and then doing prop dot post article prop dot max character props dot max character length exceeded error. So we are just destructuring here. Going to pass it here. So let's put something at the top here. Let's just use a p tag and then let's call it that's max character exceeded error. Let's style it. If there is no error, if nothing is missing out, I want to believe that this should work. So I'm trying to check out if there is any issue. Okay, so okay, we have brought it here, maximum length exceeded error. And then we have this here. And then what else are we looking for? Then this is the parent component. We have been able to map state to props here. Then we've brought it in here, we've destructured it here. Now we've passed it as a prop to this child component article form and we've brought it in here. And then in our reducer, we already have the implementation and this is what to be passed. And then also we have been able to implement it inside our middleware. This is the function that is to be fired. And then we brought this in, and this is the dispatch from this guy. So in our article, we have this, we have this. So I want to believe that this should work. So let's go to our application, yeah, and then let's fire. If we put something like this, let's see if nothing has broken in our code. Okay, our code is still working fine. So that's it. So now let's say I put in long something. So I think this is more than 15. And then do something like this. This is our content. Nothing is going to be validated at that point. Wow, can you see? Title cannot be more than 15 characters. So that's a middleware for you. For every action that is being performed here on the view, inside the view, we are going to have the middleware fired. So we have been able to implement middleware in Redux, and that is you can try to do more and try to do any implementation you want. And there's something we need to add here, because if we still reduce the length here, let's say I bring the length to this, I still fire it, it will go, but this will remain. So we have to go to our reducer and clear that. So what we believe is that whenever this guy is going to fire, then it means it has successfully bypassed the condition that has been stated in our middleware. So it means it is valid. Then we're going to have something like max character error exceeded. Then we change it back to empty string. So with this, now if I have a long something like this and then I put my something like this and I put submit, that's it. So, and if I clear that and let's say I change it to this, it's going to pass and the error message would disappear. So we have come to the end of the tutorial. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Make Them Tech. From time to time, we bring into you video tutorials on React, JavaScript, Node, and so on. And also turn on the notification bell so that when we drop a new video, you will always get notified. Thank you guys. I will see you in my next video.